Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Maverick News channel. Sorry I wasn't here last night. Just could not make it, but I'm here now. Did you miss me? Some people say yes. Other people say no. And that's okay. It's just the way of the world. We're divided. We're going to talk about that to some degree tonight. And we're also going to talk about Prince Andrew being stripped of his title because of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. We're going to talk about who else? Donald Trump, his so-called trade deals globally, the impact, the fallout on Canada, what's going on with Canada's attempts to preserve its sovereignty in the face of this economic attack, and what the social media influencers out there are doing in response to all of that. It kind of makes me wonder what the true motivations are behind some of what people are doing. We have, I think we're going to show you some stuff with Erica Kirk tonight. And then we're going to get into some of the subject matter I alluded to a few nights ago about advertising, the impact on society, the current, I guess, community standards that are being applied to advertising, whether it's the Sydney Sweeney jeans ads or what you're seeing, even on kids shows. So we're going to get into all of that. And I'm going to address some controversy as well that I guess is swirling around this program, this channel. Sort of semi-related to what's going on out at the crazy ostrich farm. We're going to save that for the end of the broadcast, so you'll have to stay tuned to find out what all the conflict is about. I'll address it at that time, and I'll get into today's top news stories when we come back on the other side of this.
Maverick News isn't just a news outlet, it's a community of truth seekers. Your donation at freedomreporters.com fuels our mission to report the stories that mainstream media won't touch. Thank you, Maverick family.
Let's not waste any time tonight. Let's start getting right into it, shall we? Prince Andrew. Well, he has certainly fallen from grace, hasn't he? Yes. So tonight, Prince Andrew stripped of his title. And he is going to be forced to move. Where are my notes? Where are my notes? Well, let me bring them back up in my file folder. Here we go. Yeah, so he's been stripped of his titles, and the king is saying you got to move out of your house. The king has initiated this formal process to remove the style, the titles, the honors of Prince Andrew, and it's understood that the king had the support of the Prince of Wales in the decision, and Andrew did not object to this process. All of it, of course, clearly connected to the controversy swirling around the now former prince and Jeffrey Epstein and his friendship with Epstein, the late child sex offender. And these allegations of sexual assault against him by one of Epstein's victims, Virginia Giuffre. Her memoirs just recently released. There were extracts of the posthumous memoir of Giuffre, who were published by The Guardian. And we've also seen interviews come out with the woman behind the book who published this, highlighting a lot of what's been going on. I thought we would do maybe a little Twitter scroll here just to show you the online reaction tonight to this announcement that the prince it continues to be in trouble. And this is a scandal that is not going away. So here we are. First, the British ambassador lost his job. Now the prince lost his title. Don't tell us there's nothing in the Epstein files. The truth is coming out and we will not give up. Repost this tag, it says here, from Thomas Massey. Let's keep scrolling down. Here's Link Lauren. And I don't know who this person is, but we're going to give them a voice tonight.
Okay, so I'm doing work around the house, cleaning out closets. Ignore the way I look, but it seems like the royal family is also cleaning out their closets because Buckingham Palace released a statement saying that Prince Andrew will be stripped of his prince title. He'll be the artist formerly known as Prince. He is also being forced to move out of Royal Lodge, his home he was allowed to live in until 2078. Now, I have to mention that Prince Andrew denies any wrongdoing and has not been criminally convicted whatsoever of any crimes, but this is a PR crisis for the monarchy, and the monarchy is all about survival. King Charles knows this. Prince William, who will be king very soon, he also knows this, and only 1 in 4 people said they thought Prince Andrew was a great guy, so the other 75% were saying he's got to go. No,
Okay, so we've got a little tongue-in-cheek comedy going on. Here's the letter, I guess, from Buckingham Palace, the statement that says, His Majesty has today initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles, and honors of Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. His lease on Royal Lodge has to date provided him with legal protection to continue in residence. Formal notice has now been served to surrender the lease, and he will move to alternative private accommodation. These censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact that he continues to deny the allegations against him. Their Majesties wish to make clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse. And Nicholas Lysak posting here again. Prince Andrew will be stripped of his prince title and shown the door at Royal Lodge. This is a huge victory for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and his network of predators. Andrew has shamed the royal family and disgraced Britain. He is a vile and despicable man. And this is the this is the woman who co-authored the Giuffre memoir. And she here is reacting to this announcement today. This is the lady that I mentioned who's been doing, quite a series of interviews regarding the released memoirs. And I've listened to some of it, and it is heartbreaking, riveting dialogue when she is engaging in these discussions.
I've said it many times in interviews. There's a class issue here, which is rich people have been allowed to treat poor people as their playthings and not pay any consequences for it. And apparently that time is over. And I am so grateful to the king, and I gather to others in Buckingham Palace who agree that these men need to be held accountable. And again, in the United States, that reckoning has not begun. But I hope that the Department of Justice and the FBI will do its job and start to hold some of these men to account on this side of the pond.
I wouldn't count on it. Not at all. Not the way things are going. There were a lot of things about the justice system in the U.S. and in Canada that I had some concerns about before. I have similar concerns even now, even as maybe, and actually to a larger degree on the US side now, even though we've had a change of the guard, so to speak, with the Trump administration coming in, and we see these new people put in place, people like Kash Patel and Bondi. I have to say, I don't have a lot of confidence in what they're doing. And with regard to the Epstein files, don't hold your breath. If you're looking for truth, it's going to be a long time in coming, I think, unless somebody squeezes really, really hard. And with the way Trump has his grip on power right now, he's got too much control to let this stuff out. But there is a crack in the armor here. Dr. Shola Mos Shogbamimu, I don't know who this is, says ex-Prince Andrew is stripped of Prince title and kicked out of Royal Lodge. Epstein's BFF, formerly known as Prince, will now be Mr. Andrew. Mountbatten Windsor, his disgrace is complete. Yeah, it's
victory for Virginia.
Here's another clip. I think this is a different one.
One of us. And now.
Hang on.
Now he's just one of us. And it's a huge victory for Virginia. And I hope that it really starts a reckoning. She always wanted all of the men who abused her to be held to account. And this is the first one, and I'm thrilled. Now he's just one of us.
Maybe. Well, we have other news to cover tonight. We'll be revisiting this, I'm sure, in the days, weeks, months ahead. Stay with me. I'll be right back.
They both look clean, but the guest list redacted, if you know what I mean. No files exist, just a little twist, nothing to see here. Move along, folks, the truth's in the vault with the dirty jokes. No names released, justice deceased to protect the victims and Donald Trump. Shh, don't say the name, you'll get dumped. They dance with the girls too young to vote, a private jet and a suicide note. One's in a grave, the other still tweets. The truth took a dive 6,000 feet. The cameras broke, that's not a joke. The guards were napping, the logs were gone, and everyone smiled like nothing's wrong. Nobody talks, just shadow walks. National security took the stage while justice quietly disengaged. We can't release the names to protect the victims. And also Donald Trump. Coincidence? Just dumb luck. Right? Another sealed file. That crocodile smile. We did our best, says the DOJ, while the truth just fades away. Another new spin. No one will win except the rich guys with gold ID cards and closets full of secrets behind steel bars.
out to Richmond, BC we go now, where we are seeing Aboriginal land claims, First Nations come to a real head. We've reported on this actually a long time ago. You had the court ruling saying that the Cowichan First Nations, or the Cowichan Nation, has title over the land in that part of BC. And in fact, it looks like it's going to be broader than that. As a result, we have people out there, homeowners, who have banks saying they are not going to renew mortgages because of the First Nations land claim in that community, Richmond, British Columbia, here. So here's a map. And maybe some of what we were reporting on even as far back as a couple of years ago with regard to land claims, First Nation status, ASMIN, these, what constitutes what makes an Indigenous person, all of these things, common law. Maybe some of those discussions, if you were watching those, have been watching those over the past couple of years, those things will maybe begin to make a little more sense to you now, why I devoted so much time to all of that. So this is a map showing sort of the area affected, 175 homes affected by this. Private home sales in the area affected by the new native title in Richmond, BC can now only proceed with selling with the consent of the Cowichan Nation. Needless to say, pretty destabilizing for the community, and it isn't clear now if people out there who've been paying their mortgages even have title to their homes. Here's a letter from the city of Richmond, homeowners being told that their properties may be at risk. Here's a copy of the letter. Please take note, it says that the recent BC Supreme Court decision of Cowichan Tribes versus Canada 2025, BCSC 1490, made some very important decisions which could negatively affect the title of your property. A briefing paper prepared by City of Richmond staff is attached for your reference. If you look at the draft map attached to the briefing, your property is located within the claim area outlined in green. For those whose property is in the area outlined in black, the court has declared Aboriginal title to your property, which may compromise the status and validity of your ownership. This was mandated without any prior notice to the landowners. The entire area outlined in green is claimed on appeal, we showed you that, by the Cowichan First Nations. Given the serious implications of this court decision and the pending appeal, the city is hosting an information meeting, which was held on the 28th. And as a result of that, let me scroll down. Here's some pictures from that meeting. Packed house, some pretty upset people, very concerned homeowners, if indeed they're homeowners at all. Scroll down and we have these reactions from the meeting. And I'm sorry I wasn't here last night. And we're kind of playing a little bit of catch up on this, but not entirely because the story continues to move forward.
My parents bought this property in '74. They farmed it ever since.
Balbath's family home and blueberry farm is typical of the properties here in South Richmond. Farmsteads and big homes, where owners tell us there was never a thought that their ownership status could change. And no one ever talked to them about that possibility.
Well, I think the leaders are dealing with it very poorly. There was, like I said, there was no consultation.
Which is why Richmond Mayor Malcolm Brodie's recent letter to 150 property owners affected by the Cowichan tribe's title case has hit like a bombshell. The mayor warned the case could compromise the validity of their ownership and invited them to an information session later this month.
So the question is, will anybody want to ever buy a property that is being so affected? Could you get a mortgage and secure that mortgage or other financing by a charge on that property?
Brody admits his motive was not just informational, but was designed to trigger a larger political debate about the issue, where he says the provincial and federal input in that court case failed to insist that existing private property should be off limits in land title cases.
But fee simple property, your home, should be exempt from this discussion. It has to be handled in some other way.
Well, the NDP government is appealing the decision that led to this. Opposition parties were quick to say their handling of this case threatens property rights everywhere.
There isn't an area in this province that is not going to be potentially impacted by the decision that is coming from this court case.
If they want people to feel more confident, if they want to make sure that we don't end up with resentment on behalf of property owners towards any other groups in BC, they need to be more clear about what the potential impacts could be and what they intend to do about it.
We reached out to the Cowichan tribes but didn't hear back in time for this story. Though here's what they said at their news conference in August.
The courts remain an option for First Nations when we are not heard and our rights are ignored. We did not pursue this case with malice or ill will.
We're not here to fight against anyone. We're here to ensure that history is in its right place, that history is corrected.
Back on Number 6 Road, one resident told us he never thought something like this could happen in Canada until he saw the mayor's letter. For Balbath, there's an entire family legacy at stake.
We don't want to be moving anywhere. We don't want to be giving up this property. We have no intentions of selling this property. So whatever's happening right now, it's very concerning.
In Richmond, Paul Johnson, Global News.
Yeah, should be concerning. This is going to affect the entire country. This is why you've seen so much this explosion in the pretendian movement, people trying to claim First Nation or Indigenous status through a claim that they are Métis because they are born of the land, regardless of where they are from. So you have a lot of fake Indians running around, and some of them successfully filing and gaining status like that, which some people say is racist, but it is maybe beyond that. It is, some people have seen this coming, a lot of people, and they're trying to protect themselves by claiming Indigenous status so that if their properties are affected, they say, well, no, I'm a First Nations person. It isn't just about trying to create an entitlement to government programs or subsidies or whatever the government might be offering as compensation or an effort toward reconciliation through compensation to Indigenous peoples or just support programs. It's about property rights and getting out ahead of these kinds of court rulings, because what's going on out in BC right now is the tip of a very large iceberg. And that iceberg has already set sail because you have seen all these land acknowledgements repeatedly from people who have been so eager, especially people on the liberal left who have wanted to be politically correct, and including our leaders, our politicians and bureaucrats who stand up at now every public meeting and go through these land acknowledgements. And the first time I saw this is not stuff that was going on even, man, when did this stuff start? 10 years ago? Maybe a little longer, maybe 15, 20. It started after I left working in television because it was never going on back in those times. Then it began, and I started to notice it just in the community on occasion, and then it became a regular thing. Now it's just a regular way to start meetings across Canada now. And really what is being said is none of this land belongs to us. We were wrong to take it. We're living on stolen land. And so from a legal perspective, I mean, all the issues of race and prejudice and all that stuff aside, when you stand up and you have your politicians, your leaders who make the laws, when you have them say, yeah, everything we have, we stole. Now that's an admission of guilt in a country that it's quite right for some people to point out that we never really conquered First Nations peoples. We reconciled with them. We compromised. We made deals with them, and we've allowed First Nations to retain their status as nations within a nation. We have treaties in place, but these land acknowledgements, the way they're worded from a legal perspective, it creates a real problem, especially when you integrate that with the language, which is very loosely written in the United Nations Declaration of Rights for Indigenous Peoples, a document that is not in itself binding against the federal government in Canada. But when you read it, it's not binding. But then the Trudeau government, Trudeau went further than that. The Liberal government did pass legislation, not enshrined in the Constitution, by the way, but there is legislation that forces all levels of government to acknowledge UNDRIP and integrate and reconcile all new laws and all existing law with UNDRIP. But that's a unilateral decision, an arbitrary decision on the part of the Canadian government under Trudeau. Now that could change because it's not in that legislation is not in the Constitution. So the legislation could change, in my view, but it depends on how it all integrates with the treaties. And you have this complicating factor now of all the language that has been used at these land acknowledgements. So good luck in court when you're trying to say, well, we didn't really mean it, when you stand up, because all they have to do now, any First Nations land claim, the people prosecuting that in court just have to point to the politicians to say, well, look, he said all this land belongs to this First Nations community. Now deal with it. This is not just about making history right. This is about what the future is going to look like. I don't know if there's ever been anything like this in the world that anybody has actually had to deal with before. We've dealt with colonialism, settlers, and you're even dealing with that over in the Middle East right now. The rhetoric is largely the same, but oh my God, hey, good luck out there, all you lawyers and politicians, and God help Canada as we try to wrestle with this one. But the good thing that I do see is that on the First Nations side, I do see some reasonable people leading some of these First Nations communities, and they realize that one way or another we have to come to a resolution on this stuff and live together. But with this much money, this much power at stake, yeah, people aren't going to let go of this. Like I said, this is just the beginning this is just the beginning of it all, the tip of the iceberg. So let's hope that Canada isn't just a Titanic that's about to crash into that giant iceberg. Oh my God, I'll be back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News. Defending free speech. donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Did you see this? Well, maybe not. This one isn't I don't know if this is going viral, but I did pick up on this in a Viva Fry Twitter scroll. I don't usually look at his stuff, but I did comment on something he posted the other day, 2 days ago, and I came across this. He says, MAGA for Mamdani. This, of course, Mamdani running for mayor in New York City. And Fry says, my theory is that if you believe this MAGA for Mamdani, you are immensely gullible or truly incorrigibly stupid. It's plausible. You know why it's plausible? Because MAGA is a populist movement, and it brings in people from across the political spectrum. That's why even during the first Trump run at the White House, which he was successful with, but you've seen all through this, a lot of people within the MAGA movement like Bernie Sanders, but Sanders is a Democrat socialist, or a socialist democrat, whatever. You get the idea. He's basically a communist who believes in voting. Whatever. Okay, cool. Mamdani wants government-run grocery stores. I don't want to do that, but he seems like a nice fella, just a little misguided on the economics, I think, but wants to do good things, and that's usually what happens with people who are a little too far to the left on their economic policies, because you get unintended consequences. But you do attract a lot of people who are looking for government to do something for them, and that includes a lot of people in the MAGA camp. The reality is populism brings in people from across the political spectrum. You kind of get a lot of the cast-offs and the misfits, the people who are left politically homeless. Like, I got no place left to go. You end up over there with all these other people who are like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but sounds okay to me. We're looking for an alternative, and that's what you're getting. Maybe with that guy, it could be staged, but even if it isn't, there are people in the MAGA camp who definitely are going to like Mamdani, even though Trump doesn't like him. No. If you look at the polling, Sanders brings in the same, if you add the analytics on it, Bernie Sanders appeals to a much the same demographic as Donald Trump does, because Donald Trump's not a conservative. I think he used to be a little more conservative, or at least he was projecting more conservatism during Trump 1.0. And his economic policies were different during Trump 1.0. Some people say, oh, no, they weren't. Yes, they were. He was getting rid of government regulations, getting government off the backs of companies. He was reducing taxes. The economy was expanding. You look at the trade deals that he was making back then through USMCA. Different approach. Yeah, tariffs were always kind of in the mix, but it wasn't his main sledgehammer. He didn't go to war with the entire world the last time. And when he negotiated USMCA, he looked to Mexico, and instead of taking a sledgehammer to Mexico, the deal in the end ended up helping Mexican auto workers. Well, at the same time, helping American auto workers and Canadian auto workers. Do you know how? No, Rick, tell me how. I will. Because at the time, instead of saying, we're going to impose tariffs on Mexico so we can take all your auto plants, all your auto jobs, he addressed the issue of U.S. jobs, auto jobs, and Canadian jobs, frankly, at the time, from going to Mexico by saying the reason they're going to Mexico is because Mexican auto workers are working for less money. The labor is much cheaper. That is what is attracting the investment to Mexico. So, as a result, USMCA required the wages for Mexican auto workers be raised. So the workers down there ended up getting paid more per hour, bringing them more into line with US and Canadian auto workers, and we got a free trade agreement. But now Donald Trump is taking a sledgehammer to the head of every nation he is opposed to or wants to take over, because his motivation, his goals are not entirely economic. He has other goals: disrupt, dominate, invade without invading. He's getting you to do that, or getting his social media influencers to carry water for him as he destabilizes countries, talks about annexing them. And I'm seeing all kinds of posts on social media now. If the United States military were to annex Canada, would you support it? What? Seriously? And Trump, lie, exaggerate. At this point, I have to say, the Trump emperor no longer has any clothes on. The weird thing is, a lot of people either are just going along, and this is the thing. It's like a lot of these influencers are like, they know that he's full of crap, that he's lying, especially about this ad. Oh, poor Donald, he got his feelings hurted because they ran a clip from Ronald Reagan that Doug Ford said, and poor Donald, you can't hurt him. Poor Donald. What the hell? He's a big boy. He got all upset. We can't upset Donald. That's it. I'm not talking to you anymore. And then all the influencers are like, see, it shows that Mark Carney is failure. What? Yeah, you lied. No, Donald Trump lied. It's just blatantly, except Reagan did live, in a different era. It was like the 80s, 90s. A lot of people don't remember. Memory spans are short, and a lot of people just aren't educated enough on economic issues, so they don't understand. And if Donald Trump stands up on Air Force One and says, it's all AI, they faked it, they cheated, no fair, like a whiny little baby. I mean, this is the level of conversation we're having here tonight. He got all upset, and he took his butt and his ball and he went home. You're not going to play anymore. You're not going to talk to you because you were mean. What? Yeah, it's terrible. What, did you actually defended yourself while he was punching you in the face? What's wrong with you? Why didn't you just let him beat the shit out of you? This is what they're really saying to you. I have no problem with it. Now, if that ad had lied and had truly taken Reagan's words out of context, I would have been the first to jump all over it and call it out, because I liked Reagan. I liked his economic policies. He was a conservative, a true conservative in that respect. So if they'd been lying, I would have, this is a lie. You go watch the clips, and there are lots of them, not just the one, many, many, many clips, lots of speeches where Reagan talked about tariffs and how he was in favor of free trade, not using tariffs very sparingly, but to say that he loved tariffs and that the Ontario ad was artificial intelligence. It's all AI. He lied. They cheat. It's bull. Careful who you're, and the masks are coming off, because now you're able to see who's genuine and who's just repeating narratives, who's really pro-Canada. And this isn't an elbows up liberal thing. This is a true thing about whether you love your country, whether you really want Canada or not, and whether you believe in the sovereignty of this nation. So if you're repeating this rhetoric about Doug Ford lying in the ad, you are either uneducated, know nothing about economics or history, or you're just an outright liar, or just really stupid because you can't see that the emperor has no clothes. We'll circle around to this again, I think, near the end of the broadcast, but I wanted this talking about ads, since we're on the subject. There was an ad that came out in the last couple of weeks from Stellantis Auto Company, Jeep. It really caught my attention. I didn't really expect it to. I thought it would just wash over me, but I do get these because I've been in automotive journalism for so long, because I've also have a background in marketing, advertising, and media, especially journalism, which runs through my blood. That's really, in my soul, journalism, but I know media. So this really caught my attention. Let me see if I can find the ad here. Yeah, let me bring it up. This is a Jeep ad for the Grand Wagoneer. They say sex sells. It still does. But you have to be very careful how you use it. You have to be still, it depends on your demographic. It depends on what you're selling, and it depends on who's selling it for you. The image, there's so much going on in this ad I'm about to show you. We could talk all night about it, but it's going to highlight some things about the state of our society, political correctness, just all of these, gender politics. Let's run the ad, and then we'll dig into this. Okay. So here's this extended video on the ad. And here we go.
The Jeep brand's been having a lot of fun lately. We're in the process of introducing 4 new vehicles in just 4 months. The new 2026 Jeep Grand Wagoneer makes the adventure even bigger. This vehicle's got 3 rows, legendary capability, tons of features for family adventures, and Jeep packages, including the new Upland for off-roading. All of this now starts under $65,000. In fact, there's so much excitement, we've gotten quite a few suggestions on how we should reveal it. We even had a random expert drop by with some pretty wild ideas.
Introducing the new Jeep Grand Wagoneer. It's rugged and refined, with room for the whole family.
And room to make a family. That's right, this baby is for making babies, which is why it was named the best car to have sex in by a real website. And then my drape flies off, and I'm like, oops, sorry.
Who's she again? Eliza Schlesinger, a comedian. She sent me an email that she had an idea that was going to tickle our carburetor.
Yes.
Well, Eliza, thank you for coming right in here unannounced.
Absolutely.
Yes, we love surprises. It's just that the Jeep Grand Wagoneer is for families. It's not for...
Families are great, but this is historic. You guys were named best car to have sex in. This is bigger than airbags.
Wow, you really went all in on this random article.
And I want to rename it.
Yeah, just not sure how we feel about renaming our family SUV the Grand Shagoneer.
I have alt.
Banana Split, the oven warmer, who's that for?
We can workshop it. Look, I know I don't work here yet, but I know what sells cars.
Sure, it's just we're losing the family-friendly side of things. Features like 3-row seating, touchscreen TVs with streaming.
I thought this was going to happen. I know it's too much beautiful, intelligent woman. That's why we booked a handsome, rugged, relatable husband.
Families love the 3-row seating, the ambient lighting, and the 62.5 inches of touchscreen.
No metric system here. And then I slip into something more accessible. I could stay here all night.
My arm fell asleep.
Oh, so sweet. Too modest?
Opposite.
Maybe a house would help, something that screams family.
You want family? You got family. Hi, conventional handsome husband. You seem thirsty. I made you a cold water.
Built-in cooler and massage seats are perfect for long family trips.
All this talk about product features has made me so hot under my apron. It's embroidered.
And it has next-level safety and security features.
I look at him and I say, I feel like you're not feeling me. Do you want to get dirty or what? Then he looks at me and with his beautiful deep voice says, oh, I do. And then, do you know what we do?
I'm afraid to ask for HR reasons.
We get dirty?
Filthy.
Well, hold on. We still need kids and dogs.
I got you.
I like the dog.
It's actually a wolf. It's all there. Family, fun, me as a hot mom.
It's not the worst idea I've ever heard.
Here's an even better, not worst idea you've ever heard. You guys announce me as your new CFO.
Chief Family Officer?
Sure. Family.
Room for the family.
Or room to make one.
The new Jeep Grand Wagoneer. Good, clean fun. Starting at just under $65,000.
My God. Okay. Well, there was a minefield that was successfully navigated. And why? Because it's the right, based on today's community standards, you have the right person delivering the message. It's how old would Eliza Schlesinger be? She's in like 30s, mid 30s, guessing. Early 30s, late, I don't know how old she is. Old enough to be a mom, right? And yet it's packed with cliches. It's wrapped in humor to make it palatable for people. People are laughing because they get it, but it's all, the humor is based on our culture. It's only funny if you understand the culture, you understand where society is at right now with regard to all of this. When I think back to the mid 80s, when you would go to car shows like the Detroit Auto Show or the North American International Auto Show, and there's a big car show coming up in just days in Las Vegas, the SEMA Auto Show. And when you go there, you'll see sexy hot models near a lot of these cars because there's tuner cars there, but that's like a different demographic. If you were to do that at like the Detroit Auto Show, that's taboo now. You don't do that. Back in the 80s, all of that stuff started to change. The auto companies realized that there was more of this, the feminist movement, if you want to look at it that way, through that lens, was pushing to make automotive advertising less sexist. So it became very politically incorrect in a very short period of time to have models standing beside brand new cars at reveals, which is what they're making fun of there, at these automotive events where they pull the sheet off a brand new car or a brand new, back then, minivan, a family wagon, right? A shaggin' wagon, as some people would call them back then. But it became very politically incorrect to have a very attractive young model in a sequined gown or anything that could be deemed to be sexy near the car. Yet if you go back to the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, at those same kinds of automotive events, that was like just standard to put an attractive model in a very either elegant or maybe even sexy outfit, dress, next to a new vehicle. Things changed after that. So things became more family oriented. And the auto companies struggled for a while to kind of find a new footing. And it wasn't just auto companies. It's been all kinds of advertisements, dealing with all kinds of products over time. And yet through it all, it's just that, where sex has been acceptable in advertising has just shifted. Because if you go to like SEMA, and you go into a lot of tuner cars, which is little, mostly imported sports cars, hopped up to be, really fast sports cars. You still see in a lot of these areas, young, sexy very scantily clad models. So it's socially acceptable there to do it at the event, but it isn't really televised, or it's not really in the advertising that's online or on television. It's at the event itself, which is, I think, designed to attract a young male group to come to the events. That ad, though, is just packed with so much commentary on where we're at with society today. Hot moms, it's empowering to women in a way, yet this without objectifying the woman. Yet on the flip side of that, you could argue that they're objectifying men and a white male in a cliched way by putting that sort of Fabio clone into the driver's seat of that Jeep Cherokee. Like I said, you can sit here and analyze that all day long. And it gives us some insight into where we're at. So point is, if you put, like, say you put a 22-year-old woman in that role, I don't think people would accept it. But because it's her, she gets away with the jokes. Or if you flipped it around and you put a man there talking that way, it would just set off a firestorm. So there's a double standard for sure in today's society. And there was a time too, and I think it's still kind of out there, where especially white males, especially white male husbands, have been objectified in advertising following that, shift in the mid 80s, where men were then portrayed as really stupid. I can think of, there was one ad, I don't remember what it was for, but, a woman is smacking a tennis ball and, pinging a guy off the head, and he just looks like a dunce. The Gillette ad, be the best you can be, which a lot of men took offense to because it suggested that men just generally are abusive toward women. That's the way I interpreted that ad, and I found it offensive at the time. As a result, I don't even buy Gillette products anymore because I found it really offensive. And that was probably 10 years ago. And they hired a feminist to produce a commercial for Gillette shaving products that was basically an insult to somebody like me, because it just assumes that you're abusive toward women. And I was like, wait a minute, that's not me. I don't think that's me. I don't want that to be me. I'm not saying that I've always said everything exactly correctly. And maybe, through time, my behavior has adjusted in response to shifting societal norms or acceptability. But I didn't think it was reflective of who I was or who I am even. So just a big shift. And this led me to some other interesting things in the ad world. Alienware has launched a new ad in conjunction with other brands. And this ad kind of distorts or makes it difficult to determine. It blends reality with parallel universes. It makes it increasingly difficult to understand what is actually real. It challenges our perception. And it's using some kind of fancy editing to, I think, sort of suck people into the matrix. It's also a sign of our times, and I think an opening salvo in the AI war and the way that it's impacting advertising and our society, and the way that companies and big dollar companies are trying to control our minds. Alienware, connecting with customers in parallel realities. This is a news release from Dell Computers and Dell Technologies. We listen to this. We believe technology should empower every person to reach their full potential and explore new frontiers. For our passionate community of gamers, those frontiers are often entirely new worlds, rich with adventure and possibility. Our relationship with gamers runs deep, built on a shared passion for innovation and a desire to push the boundaries of what's possible. This connection is at the heart of our new Alienware campaign, Parallel Realities, which launched this month. With this campaign, we are embracing a powerful idea that every gamer understands because they're already in the Matrix. The games you play are more than just entertainment. They are alternate realities. They're telling you that they're sucking you into a completely different reality. That's where your mind is. That's where you are when you're immersed in this. You layer in virtual reality goggles, take it to the next step, implanted chips, Neuralink connectivity, jacked into the Matrix. These parallel or alternate realities are about to become very, very real, especially in a new world of artificial intelligence, which is about to become very real. Synthetic realities being constructed for us. They're waiting for us. We're already partially immersed, if not through our cell phones, then through virtual reality goggles and through advertising. A portal to new worlds, it says. There's a theory that just beyond the world we see and touch, countless other dimensions and universes exist waiting to be discovered. Gamers are natural explorers driven by a desire to seek out our new experiences and immerse themselves in these other worlds. It's true. Some people think video games are addictive. When I was in college and university, when I was in journalism school, I produced a long documentary about video games, addiction, the impact that it was having on youths at the time, but that was back in the era of Pac-Man. This stuff is a whole new level, and it isn't just present in the video game world. They are expanding that to advertising, which they're putting in front of everyone, challenging our perceptions, challenging what we think of as reality, with this glitch ad where they are integrating other brands into what they're selling you with Alienware, partnering with these other companies. It's like product placement that's right up front. This is sort of a different approach to advertising. And again, so much to unpack here. Let me bring this up and show you what I'm talking about. If I can get you. There we go.
Now here's a little Wendy's menu hack for you. If you want a super fresh, high quality burger, just tell them you want a hamburger. And then they'll give you one right off the grill. Gotta be one.
Be more alien.
So it is just still a video, but the approach is immersive, and they're blending through repetition an artificial world in the gaming world with the reality of going through a drive-through down the street, making the two things synonymous and amplifying the messaging. For me, it's a little bit alarming because they're blurring the line between reality and what is fake, what's not real, what's generated, what's created for us. They're manipulating us. Advertising does manipulate you psychologically. All of us. I had a long conversation one time with, a couple of years ago during an election. I remember the conversation. I was there with my parents, and it was a friend. And this lady said, the advertising doesn't have any effect on me. I said, what? Yeah, it has an effect on everybody. She said, what are you talking about? I just ignore the ads. No, you don't. Everybody's exposed to the ads. I said, look, you're being exposed to ads right now. And she didn't understand what I was talking about. So I took the Heinz ketchup bottle on the table at this restaurant, and I plucked it down in the middle of the table. And I said, that's advertising. The ketchup bottle, the shape of it, The design, it's embedded in our consciousness. It's instantly recognizable as the Heinz brand, the label on the front. And when you go to the store to buy ketchup, Heinz, in your mind, is already the premium brand, the leading brand on the market. That is the brand that people are most inclined to buy as long as the price point is competitive and you're willing to pay a higher price for it because you recognize it as the premium brand. And in your mind, when you eat that stuff, when you ingest it, you think it's better. It might not even be better, but you've convinced yourself it is. And you're also conditioned and used to it because you've been buying it for so long. And it's just like toothpaste. Once you buy a toothpaste brand, they know you're likely to buy that brand. If they get you when you're young, you're likely to stay loyal to that brand, pretty loyal all through your life. That's why they put so much advertising toward young people. That's why they're directing those ads, Alienware, at a young demographic, because they know that if they get you hooked on brands when you're young, you'll stay loyal to them almost your entire life. Car companies know that too. You buy your first car, if it's a GM, if it's a Honda, as long as you have a good experience with that car the first time around, you're very likely going to buy another one and another one and another one. And it's true. Now, I've deviated in my life because I buy all used cars, but even there, I've owned probably a disproportionate number of Chrysler products, probably to my detriment, because they have not always been the most reliable. But yeah, especially in my early years, I bought mostly Chryslers. Some people like Ford, some people like Chevys, and there's a rivalry there, especially among trucks. I bought a Silverado. I bought an F-150. Yeah, fix or repair daily. You know the feud. Well, there's brand loyalty there and a rivalry. But you get somebody young, you pretty much have them for life. Fun fact. Same thing with political advertising. And that's so much about what's going on. Go back to the BC land thing just briefly. This from the Fraser Institute. This was back in August, warning us about this. I forgot to show this to you, so I'll share it with you now. We'll pivot back to this other subject matter. All of BC now subject to Aboriginal title claims. Commentary. What is the status of Aboriginal title in British Columbia as a result of the Richmond decision by Justice Young of BC Supreme Court? And what specifically did Justice Young decide? The judge declared that 3 square miles in the heart of Richmond is now Aboriginal title. Critically, the Cowichan did not sue the fee simple title owners. Therefore, she did not make a specific order declaring those titles were invalid. However, she declared Aboriginal title was superior to fee simple titles. The basis for finding Aboriginal title was her determination that as of 1846, when the British Crown entered into the Oregon Treaty with the United States and thereby declared sovereignty over what became BC, a band of a little over 1,000 Aboriginal peoples, now known as the Cowichan, used the area each summer for fishing. It was not their permanent home. They lived on Vancouver Island. They occupied the Richmond lands for only a few months each summer, but the judge determined that that was sufficient to meet the test of exclusive occupation required to establish Aboriginal title. This is the test laid down by the Supreme Court of Canada. The colony of BC started issuing fee simple titles in Richmond area in the 1860s. The Cowichan that had fished during the summer had left the area by about 1870. There's been no connection between them and the area since then, but various courts have ruled there is no need for continuous occupation. As long as the judge can find on the evidence that the band had exclusive occupation, in 1846, Aboriginal title can be declared. That is what the judge did. Here, I'll put the link to this article in the Rumble chat. So you can read the entire thing for yourself, if you so choose. This is going to wind its way through the courts. This will be challenged. And it's going to be a knockdown, drag 'em out fight. And it ain't over. Because you have people out there who are leaders on the settler side who have been eager to preemptively declare guilt. Good luck. Good luck out there, and good luck to the rest of Canada, because it's coming all the way across the country. Back to the advertising thing, just briefly. It extends to advertising. It extends to what goes on in politics too. And that brings me back again to what's been going on with the Ontario ad. Repetition, the messaging, again, from the Ontario government was accurate. You see David Eby out in British Columbia saying that the BC government is going to run ads, also challenging Trump's tariffs. And I have no issue with it as long as they're truthful, honest. And if Donald Trump gets his nose out of joint, so be it. Truth is truth. And we need to recognize that we're not going to get to a good place unless we're dealing with truth. We'll pivot back to this again as we get closer to the end of the broadcast. I have some important information to share with you on that front. Before we move on from this entirely, though, just an acknowledgement, not a land acknowledgement, an acknowledgement of what Doug Ford said, was it yesterday? Urging the U.S. ambassador to bury the hatchet and apologize for his profane tirade directed at Ontario's negotiating official. Here's is this Global or CBC? This is the CBC article, but it was all over the news yesterday, and I wasn't here for it, so I do apologize. But I want to acknowledge that this happened. Ford tells U.S. ambassador to call the guy up and apologize after tirade. U.S. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra, expletive-laced tirade toward Ontario's trade representative was absolutely unacceptable and unbecoming of an ambassador, said Doug Ford on Wednesday. Premier of Ontario comes days after Hoekstra was seen in a heated rant toward David Patterson, Ontario's trade representative, at a Canadian-American Business Council event in Ottawa on Monday, multiple witnesses told CBC News. Sources at the event spoke with CBC News on the condition that they not be named because everybody's afraid of what Trump might do. The heated exchange, allegedly laced with F-bombs, mentioned Ford by name. It appeared to have been spurred by Ontario's anti-tariff ad that ran on television in the U.S. until Monday, something that has infuriated U.S. President Donald Trump. What a whiner. Well, Ford doubled down that the ad was the right thing to do. Here's Hoekstra to apologize to Patterson and get negotiations back on track. You're being mean to me. They were looking for any excuse, any reason to suspend talks with Canada. The assertion that they were close to a deal and it was imminent to sign it, and then because of the ad, they had just to call everything off. It's all theater, and it's all a bunch of BS. It's fake. Oh, get the smelling salts out for Donald Trump. He's going to faint. They ran an ad. And then they accuse Canada of meddling in U.S. politics. Hello? What country is known for meddling in foreign politics more than probably any of the United States? And in particular, Donald Trump. You think they're not meddling in Canadian politics? You think that the President of the United States insulting our Prime Minister, insulting Canadians by attacking our sovereignty, saying you don't deserve to be a country. You're not even a real country. You should be the 51st state. You'd be way further ahead. And we won't even charge you. You get it for free. No, it's not for free. That's not meddling in Canadian politics. The ad isn't meddling in U.S. politics. The ad is defending the Canadian position by showing the hypocrisy and the ill-advised approach on economics that Donald Trump has undertaken through these massive across-the-board tariffs, not selective tariffs, across the board, hitting everything. It wasn't inappropriate at all. But you can't, oh, look, Donald Trump's got upset. Shouldn't have done that. Mark Carney isn't the one who did it. Oh, but he knew. Well, he hasn't insulted Trump. I told you there's probably some good cop, bad cop stuff going on here. That's the truth of the matter. But with regard to all of this, I mean, then you have these social media influencers, and it's like, cue the people online, cue the pro-Trump paid influencers, send them more money to get them to attack Doug Ford, Mark Carney, and Canada, and support Donald Trump as he tries to take over their country. Some of these influencers don't even live here anymore. They've already moved out. They spend a lot of time down in the States. Viva Fry. You think he's pro-Canada? No, he's not. Doesn't even live here anymore. You know, the thing is, and this also goes back to changing media landscape, the way advertising works, and news media, journalism, mainstream media. People, especially in Canada, the freedom side, or especially on the MAGA side, they say, can't trust MSM, can't trust the mainstream media. All they do is lie. All they do is lie. All they do is lie. So they only listen now to people who are online. What makes you think that the people who are online are truly independent? What makes you think that the people you're watching on Twitter aren't being controlled by someone? What makes you think that's not, in some cases, the new mainstream media? Why is it that some influencers get massive numbers and others don't? Because what they say is the truth. Is that why? Or is it because the algorithm is rigged to push their posts up? Or is it because they have big money behind them and they boost those posts through paid promotion? That's why. Those two things. It's not equal. The algorithms are rigged. It's all rigged online. You say the right things, and depending on where the social media companies are at the time and what allegiance they owe politically, right now it's to the Trump administration. So they promote a lot of that stuff. Or they were paid to help get Trump elected. Who knows what's really going on behind the scenes? But you're seeing that these companies are being bought off, or controlled through legislation or threats of punitive actions if they don't fall into line, with possibility of censorship or even outright takeover. Yeah, Trump, TikTok, China, we're taking over. You can't be here anymore. We're going to ban it. No, it's okay. We'll just buy it. Then we'll control it. Even better. Now we're going to sell it off for pennies on the dollar to oligarchs who are in Trump's good graces. So they'll buy something worth about $80 billion for a few $100 million instead. And then they're going to take the algorithms over there on TikTok, which are already being manipulated, controlled, legislated, even behind the scenes, in order to push certain kinds of messaging. And in Canada, a lot of that stuff for a long time now has been aimed at disrupting our society. It's a very anti-Canadian message that is being promoted online. Pretty clear to me. But Rick, you don't get as many views as I know, because I don't just follow the crowd. I don't succumb to the pressure. I even get phone calls from people messaging. You know, if you played your cards right, Rick, you'd get a lot more. I know. But that's not what I'm about here. And I don't need it. I mean, I need support, but like anybody else, especially who puts in 8 to 10 hours a day, producing a podcast or a live stream like this, but I'm not going to sell out. It's my country. I talked to somebody just today on the phone from another city, conservative guy. And what was he saying on the phone to me? He was just regurgitating the talking points that he's been fed online. I know them because I'm sitting here all the time and I'm immersed in it. So, but because I'm, aware of how media works, I kind of recognize the pattern, the system. And as he's speaking to me today on the show, he's just all the Doug Ford screwed up, Mark Carney failed, Trump, says that they're lying, and he's just buying it all. And I'm not disagreeing because I don't want to get into it with him, but I'm like, oh yeah, okay, but he didn't know his history, didn't know much about economics at that level, or the history behind Reagan and tariffs. I lived through that. I covered that stuff. I covered the NAFTA negotiations, not the negotiations themselves, but many stories at that time. I went to the political rallies, the conservative rallies. I went to a bunch of them with Mulrooney back in those days. I remember the whole thing, man, the way it unfolded. I was there. So you can't lie to me about it. I remember what was going on. A lot of people are buying it hook, line, and sinker. Probably half the people. Yeah, Doug Ford lied. The ad was all wrong. It was a misleading, taken out of context. No, it wasn't. The mainstream media, they have a trust issue now because they lied so much during the pandemic. People online, a lot of these people don't think that they're any different. A lot of them are worse, way worse. Because even with mainstream media, you still have a code of conduct, a journalistic code of ethics that they're supposed to subscribe to and abide by. I've shown you what some of those standards are. You also have legislation, you have rules, you have content requirements, you have regulations in place to make sure that there's fair coverage even for these organizations. And if you step out of line on a television network in Canada and in the US, you can be held accountable. Lose your job. You could even lose your broadcast license if you don't provide even fair access. There are nuances to it, but there are rules, but not so much so online. And the line between journalism and influencer has been completely blurred and integrated. And because of the economic challenges on the mainstream media side, that's why you've seen the erosion of standards over there as they chase clicks online themselves and chase ratings and try to stay engaged with their audience and retain viewers. You've seen an erosion of standards. But because over online with these independent, I would say alternative controlled media, a lot of them are being paid by political organizations. A lot of it's being done by foreign governments. The money is flowing into their bank accounts through super chats, and it's laundered, filtered so that it can't really be detected. You say the right thing, they throw like a little doggy biscuit to the influencer to get them to do more of it. It's conditioning sometimes. Sometimes they're not even aware that it's being done to them. But in other cases, it's absolutely being done. That's why you see, and I understand marketing, that's why you see marketing firms aligning with some of these influencers and actually coaching them, coordinating with them, helping them with talking points, helping them with style, helping them with messaging, because it's not about bringing you truth. It's about bringing you a message, a narrative. They're selling you something, selling you a political perspective. They are manipulating you to get you to vote a particular way or support a particular cause, or in this case, to support the overthrow of your government in a soft coup through social media, information warfare, undermine your trust, your confidence, even your belief that your own government or your country is even real. And as a result of all of that, you give up and go, oh, we might as well just become the 51st state. It's just too much. Mm-hmm. That's what they're doing to you. And then you sit there and they sit there and say, and then Doug Ford interfered in American politics. How dare he? When it's them doing it. Everything is upside down. And then look what's going on out at the ostrich farm. And all these other events that have taken place since the Freedom Convoy. And even there. And then you go look at what a color revolution looks like. And you look at what the CIA and the FSB and Mossad and all these intelligence agencies from all these different countries, what do? They manipulate people online to get people out into the streets, to be disruptive, to rise up against their governments, to fight with each other, to cause chaos in the streets. Oh yeah. Yeah, who's trucking out to BC? You think they've got a mind of their own? Are they thinking for themselves? Oh, Maverick, I've got more to say. I'm not done yet tonight. Let's take a little break, though. I'll rest my vocal cords for, I don't know, 60 seconds to 2 minutes, and I'll be right back.
Maverick News. Expose lies and tell truth. The world is watching.
Just check my list of top news stories for the day to see what I'm missing. What have we not touched on here yet? Oh, hot pants. Oh, Rick, you're so disrespectful. No, I'm not. Just calling out the obvious. Don't hate me because what I say is true. This was Erica Kirk. You explain it to me. Oh, that's not the right one. I'm going to bring it up. Here's Erica Kirk at a big Turning Point USA rally. Here's the widow. Please explain the fashion choice to me. I'm going to turn the music down so we don't get a copyright strike. I'm not the only one who noticed. This is the first thing I noticed. Maybe it's because I'm male and, it's the Sydney Sweeney gene effect, like the Streisand effect. But what is that? I mean, okay, whatever. I'm just saying. Kind of goes with the fireworks at the memorial service, It's all a show. I mean, it's just she was a model, beautiful woman. This is supposed to be a woman who, and I don't even have an issue so much with the pants. It's just that it's the messaging that comes with that I'm just like, this doesn't quite fit. supposed to be traditional values. It's supposed to be family oriented. It's supposed to be still a country in mourning over the death of Charlie Kirk. This is his widow coming out on stage. What am I missing here? Why are they putting her in an outfit like that at this point? Am I, what is it? What am I missing? I'm going to look in the chat. Can somebody help me with this? Lindy's, it's ridiculous. All the show says Stoic. Yeah, I believe that. And she shouldn't be wearing them at this kind of function, says Lindy. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, yeah. And Cindy says it is, she's very attractive, but this is bizarre. She was in Miss USA when Trump owned. Yeah. Well, she was Miss Arizona too, right? Isn't that right? I think so. And she wants money from Trump. Yeah, well, she's probably getting that too. Lots of money goes into Turning Point USA. It's a huge cash machine. But what I don't quite get is why. And this is why I'm maybe not the #1 marketing guy in the world. Because I wouldn't do that. Especially if I was advising, if I were advising Erica Kirk, I would say, you don't wear that on stage right now. No, you have to be careful what you're wearing. Wear something more conservative, more family oriented, more reserved, more humble. But to come out on stage in like leather hot pants, not like shorts, but you saw them. Here. Okay. I'm maybe missing, maybe I'm too old. The messaging is not directed at me. Maybe that's why it's lost on me, but there's messaging in that. Not sure what it is. Can't quite put my finger on it. But it's not a mistake. It's not accidental. It's intentional. Stoic says, teacher says, makes a husband like a dispensable paper cup. Yeah. Dragon says, sundress, conservative sundress I would be okay with that. I'm okay. You can do whatever you want, but it feels off. Here's Trump on his trade deal with China. China. He's trying to portray this as a big win. I think Xi is also trying to portray it as a big win. I think we kind of got a draw at this point, and it's not a full deal, but Trump will tell you it is. Here's what he said in the gaggle on the way back from China. His negotiation with China and the ASEAN summit.
I thought it was an amazing meeting. He's a great leader of a very powerful, very strong country, China. And what can I say? We have, it was an outstanding group of decisions, I think, that was made. A lot of decisions were made, too. There wasn't too much left out there. And we've come to conclusion on many very important points, and we'll be handing that to you in a little while. We're having, because there was a lot of different things, many of them very important. We're in agreement on so many elements, large amounts, tremendous amounts of the soybeans and other farm products are going to be purchased starting immediately. If you notice, President Xi authorized yesterday for China to start, did you know that, right? China to start buying in very large quantities of soybeans and other things, which I appreciated. That was a very nice gesture. And many other things like that. On fentanyl, we agreed that he was going to work very hard to stop the flow. You know, it's a very complex subject because it's used for lots of different reasons, including anesthetics and things. But he's going to work very hard on it, precursors, and I think you're going to see some real action taken. I've agreed, as you know, I put a 20% tariff on China because of the fentanyl coming in, which is it's a big tariff. And based on his statements today, I reduced it by 10%, so it's 10% instead of 20% effective immediately. I believe he's going to work very hard to stop the death that's coming in. But again, it's complex because of what fentanyl is, what the precursors do. So I think you're going to see a big difference. We've had discussions on many of the elements that you're talking about all the time. You're asking me questions, and most of those things were I think agreed to for the most part. I think we agreed to almost everything in a very acceptable form. I wouldn't say everything was discussed because there were things that probably, in retrospect, we could have discussed and we didn't, for some reason, didn't come up. But if you have any questions, let me know. Go ahead.
What about chips, sir? Did he agree? Did you agree to sell any more down
chips? We did discuss chips, and they're going to be talking to NVIDIA and others about taking chips. Look, we make great chips. NVIDIA is the leader. And I'll be speaking to Jensen from NVIDIA, but they're going to be discussing that with NVIDIA to see whether or not they can do. I said that's really between you and NVIDIA, but we're sort of the arbitrator or the referee. It's a little rough up here. The skies are a little rough.
And just to clarify, sir, that is the downgraded Blackwell chips. You would authorize those to be exported?
Not the Blackwell. We're not talking about the Blackwell. That just came out yesterday. But a lot of chips, a lot of the chips, and that's good for us.
How soon do you think you'd be able to sign an actual?
Please, come on. You know what you do? Yeah, come on.
Let me
stand right over here.
Yeah, hey everybody, thanks. Let me just make a point on the chips. As the president was saying, there's so many chips we already sent to China, a lot of advanced chips, etc. And as he said, NVIDIA will talk to China and see what's possible. The Blackwell chips, of course, weren't discussed. We focused on export controls of China on rare earths, and they're going to keep those flowing, which is quite important.
What are the major stumbling blocks that are left now to work through, and how soon do you think you could sign a trade deal with China?
Well, I think pretty soon. We have not too many major stumbling blocks. We have a deal. Now, every year we'll renegotiate the deal, but I think the deal will go on for a long time, long beyond the year. We'll negotiate at the end of a year, but all of the rare earth has been settled, and that's for the world. I mean, worldwide. This, I guess you could really say this was a worldwide situation, not just a U.S. situation. So we continue to produce the rare earths and buy the rare earths and everything else, when you see from other countries. But China is, that whole situation, that roadblock is gone now. There's no roadblock at all on rare earth. That will hopefully disappear from our vocabulary for a little while.
So is that a one-year pause on the policy they announced?
It's a one-year agreement, and we'll extend it after a year.
And what will
like we do. It's a one-year deal that will, I think, be very routinely extended as time goes by.
To be totally clear, they're not going to impose the rare earth controls that they proposed. President Trump and President Xi came to an understanding on that side.
What will your new tariff rate on China's goods be once you sign a deal?
Other than what the tariffs remain exactly the same.
55%.
It's about it was 57. Now it's 47.
And how long?
Because we reduced it by the fentanyl, because I believe they are really taking strong action. We've already seen the action on fentanyl, and they're taking very strong action. So we reduced to 10%.
So that November date is gone when it was going to go up again?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. So
that's all.
On fentanyl, they've agreed there are a variety of precursors. You may recall that actual fentanyl was scheduled by China in the president's first term successfully. There's certain precursors where they take whatever actions they need to control that. If they can control rare earths, we know they can control the precursors. And President Xi, I think, was very strong in
very strong on enforcing the fentanyl, everything having to do with fentanyl and regulations internally, including taking very strong measures against those that don't obey.
And a variety of other tariffs still remain. Section 301 tariffs from the original, a variety of Section 232 tariffs. Some of these tariffs are, as the president mentioned, around 40%. For some individual products, it may go up to 100%, but as a general matter, it's about 45, 47%.
So, sir, it sounds like you might be going to China then after the successful meeting.
That's another thing we agreed. I'll be going to China in April, and he'll be coming here sometime after that, whether it's in Florida, Palm Beach, or Washington, D.C.
Did you read anything on the shipping fees, the 301 shipping investigation?
Well, that's been.
So we're going to postpone that while we negotiate with them about that issue. We're trying to rebuild shipbuilding. The Cranes just agreed to invest $150 billion in shipbuilding, so we think we have a good path forward.
But that's no longer an issue.
Okay. So chips, that's a national security thing. They're obviously not going to give China access to the most powerful chips, especially as we get into AI, the era of AI, this new economic revolution. That's largely what's pushing the stock market up too. And that's why you should also keep your eye on what's going on with energy. That's why Trump has his eye on Venezuelan oil, Alberta oil. That's why he has his eye on Greenland, rare earth minerals in Ontario, and electricity in Ontario, these modular nuclear reactors, because energy equals, in the future, and even now to some degree, energy equals money. Money equals energy because of digital currency, because it takes energy for cryptocurrency mining, because AI takes energy, because these two things are now working hand in hand. And so while after going off the gold standard, oil became integral and tied to the US dollar. That's why they call the US dollar the petrodollar, because they had Saudi Arabia, Middle East agreements in place forcing those countries to buy or only accept US dollars for oil in exchange for military defense. That's why oil makes the world go around. That's why oil is tied to the value of the US dollar. And that's why in the future, that will also dictate the strength or weakness of any given country, because oil and or energy, whether it's wind, solar, whatever it is, as you generate enough energy, that's what will be used to actually create currency and fuel the AI revolution. So these things are going to become more integrated, and oil itself, therefore, begins to represent a wealth of a country and or energy, whether it's nuclear or however you're generating it. So the relationship between currency and money and energy then becomes the new gold standard, because it replaces gold. The way oil did after Nixon took the US off the gold standard, energy is going to continue in a more pronounced way dictate how currency is used, what currency is valued at, which countries dominate, what becomes the world reserve currency, whether it's Bitcoin or meme coins. And that brings me back around to, how do you make a deal with Donald Trump? This is all you have to do. You don't need to run these $75 million ads. You know what you do? You go down to Mar-a-Lago when he's there, and you hang out with Donald. You send Doug Ford down, or Mark Carney, or whomever, and you say, Canada will buy $1 billion worth of Trump meme coins. Take him a gift when you go down too. I don't know, take him a trophy made out of, I don't know, Canadian nickel or something. Maybe take it in the form of make it like a nickel-plated baseball, a consolation prize for when the Blue Jays win the World Series, Or here, this is the other way. Well, I'm going to come back to it, but I have another solution to the whole trade war thing with Donald Trump, and it's all about baseball. All right, I'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Coming back to this advertising stuff. Excuse me. Here's an article in Ad Age talking about the Alienware glitch ads. They've done the same thing here with Ford, some other companies as well. So they've integrated this parallel realities thing with these other brands. It also reminds me of an old ad from not old, but from 2-3 years ago with BMW. I believe it was BMW. And they were running these ads in, pretty sure it was, let me look it up. You go to the movie theaters, they run those ads in the movie theaters now because you can't get away from commercials, even when you pay to go see a show. Yeah. So you're in the theaters. And yeah, here it is right here. Hacker News. This is from 2010. Wow, it's that long ago. I'm so freaking old. Here's this is from Hacker News. Appropriate, since they're hacking your brain with this stuff. This is how sophisticated they are. They flashed you at the end of this ad. This is back in 2010. I bet you could. BMW burns logo onto cinema goers' eyes. Yeah. That's what they did. Oh, it's a Wired article. I guess it's the article's gone. Hacker News. Let me bring it back here. Yeah, flash projection, cinema advertisement. I think this is it here. This is in Drive, paper plane. Basically what they did is at the end of this ad, you're watching this in a dark movie theater, and they flash you with the logo at the very end, really bright. And then, when you close your eyes after you look at something really bright, you still see it afterward. That's what they were doing to people in the theaters. So it was like embedding the logo in your brain. I think this is it, yeah.
What do we see when we look straight at the sun and then close our eyes? That's right, a bright, moving disk. It lasts several seconds. Every child knows this after-image effect. We used the after-image effect for a completely new brand experience, for the first advertising commercial that doesn't use a directly visible logo, but by doing so, generates a more intensive connection to the target group. we developed a cinema ad for BMW motorcycles that turns spectators into astonished fans. It does this by using an after image of the brand to literally get inside people's heads. Wow. Here's how it worked. While the cinema ad was playing, we illuminated the BMW logo with a harmless photo flash onto the audience's eyes. The audience at first only perceives a bright flash during the ad. However, when they were asked to close their eyes at the end of the ad, they were surprised to see the BMW logo as an after image. Here is the original ad.
Every day people ask me why I race. Why I take a turn at 200. Why do I go full power? I always give them the same answer. I am living my dream. What dream? They ask. Just close your eyes, I say, and look deep into yourself. Maybe it's your dream too. It's in you. Close your eyes and you will see it. Close them now.
Toller Werbespot von dem Rennfahrer und am Ende, nachdem er sagt, close your eyes, war wirklich toll. Ich habe BMW gelesen. Hat mich sehr beeindruckt.
Also da kam irgendwie der Blitz und so, dann habe ich die Augen zugemacht und im Endeffekt, erst waren so scharfe Konturen und dann ist es richtig irgendwie so ins lila, grüne irgendwie so weggelaufen. Also war stark, war cool.
Really fantastic, it was very cool. Involve me and I will understand. Or you'll be manipulated. Who wants to buy a BMW motorcycle? Who wants to go to the ostrich farm? It's just SOS. Just saying. Oh, I can't trust the MSM, can't trust the mainstream media. Yeah. Who can you trust? Oh, man. You know, people's heads being pumped full of messages. Don't trust this guy. Don't listen to that guy. There's a whole lot of that's been going on for a long time. Especially since the pandemic. It's like that's the turning point in everything. But since then, of course, especially on the freedom side, the conservative side, the MAGA side, I would say the religious, the people who are very, spiritual, don't listen to mainstream media. They don't, and especially since Trump has come on the scene, we're disengaging from the World Health Organization. Anything with the word world in front of it, anything, globalists, people don't really even fully understand. We've been fed this messaging, but you know what I've discovered is that there's been a lot of lying going on there too. Some truth and a lot of lies too. So we're being lied to all the way around the dial politically. Yuval Noah Harari. I read some of what he had written here one night and I said, is this what was the subject matter? Anyway, is this person in favor of or against AI? I think it was, or warning about it. And everybody said, oh, very concerned about it, worried about it. And then I told everybody who wrote it and they were like, oh my God, I thought it was the opposite. Yuval Noah Harari, futurist, often invited to speak at the World Economic Forum, to world leaders, various forums and seminars, world famous writer. I've read more of his stuff over the last couple of years, watched more of what he said in full context. I've seen a lot of his stuff taken out of context. He's portrayed especially to people in our communities, as this evil person who is, advocating or promoting artificial intelligence, transhumanism, integration of human beings with technology. But when I'm listening to him, I don't really get that from him. What I get from that guy is he's warning us. He's actually not like promoting it in anything that I've ever watched with him. He's just saying it's coming. And we need to be very, very worried about it. In fact, here, look at the title on this video from a year ago. I picked up on this because of all this stuff with advertising that I've been looking at. He says, our AI future is way worse than you think. That's what he's telling you, telling us. But people want to dismiss him. That makes me very suspicious of the people telling me that we shouldn't be listening to this guy, because he's bringing forth a message of caution. Rightly so, saying that we need to be very worried about AI. He's saying, this wasn't very insightful, and I repeated this actually just the other night, that as much as people are worried about immigration and people from other countries coming to take our jobs, the real threat to the labor market, to the average, ordinary peasant like us, is artificial intelligence. He sees each form of artificial intelligence as what he describes as an agent. And these agents, or artificial intelligence agents, like you have agency as an individual, and you as an individual have the right to go and get a job and so on. But AI is the greatest threat to labor, maybe to humanity, to our ability to make a living. It's the most disruptive technology probably ever created, and we don't know where it's taking us, because these agents or AI agents, each individual form of AI, whether it's ChatGPT, Grok, whatever it might be, they have agency, and they are displacing jobs. And so he sees them almost as like a replacement for humans through robotics combined with AI and other technologies. He's saying we need to get a handle on this in a regulatory sense. It's worth listening to him. That's why I always say, don't just dismiss somebody or out of hand just because somebody says don't listen to them. No, you should go listen to them, especially if it's somebody you don't agree with or think that is a threat or maybe even evil. You need to understand what they have to say in order to make good decisions, and we need to do that collectively as a society. Here's Harari talking about this, and also how easy it is for this kind of technology through social media companies to get out of hand. And he says the proof of that is already in the pudding. We've already seen it. There's empirical evidence of that because of the way even algorithms are used, which is in itself a form of artificial intelligence.
The algorithms discovered that the easiest way to increase user engagement, the easiest way to grab people's attention and keep them glued to the screen, is by pressing the greed or hate or fear button in our minds. You show us some hate-filled conspiracy theory, and we become very angry. We want to see more. We tell about it to all our friends. User engagement goes up. And this is what they did over the last 10 or 15 years. They flooded the world with hate and greed and fear, which is why, again, the conversation is breaking down. Very hard to hold the conversation with all this hate and fear.
I mean, it's a function of unintended consequences that on some level is no different than Nick Bostrom's, alignment problem, thought experiment about paper clips. Like this is the exact same thing. And I think it speaks to not only human ignorance, but human hubris around this powerful technology. I think, you talk so much about stories and how indelible they are in terms of crafting our reality. But one of those stories is, we know what we're doing. We can handle it. We understand the consequences. We know the downside here, and we're making sure that what we're putting out into the world is safe and consumer friendly. When, on some level, they know it's not, but also they have no idea, what will become of it as a result. And so we're just in this frontier, this unregulated frontier where anything goes at the moment.
Yeah, and I think it's important what you said, that these are kind of unintended consequences. Like the people who manage the social media companies, they are not evil. They didn't set out to destroy democracy or to flood the world with hate and so forth. They just really didn't foresee that when they give the algorithm the goal of increasing user engagement, the algorithm will start to promote hate. And one of the first places that this happened...
Let me just interject quickly on that, though. Now that they know that that's the case, it's not as if they're backtracking.
That's true.
And
now they know.
They're not exactly regulation friendly at the moment.
No, absolutely not.
So all right, sorry, go ahead.
You're right. Now they know, and they are not doing nearly enough. But initially, when they started this whole ball rolling...
And now that they know... And keep in mind that Donald Trump used Facebook to get elected the first time, and then Truth Social and X. And if Elon Musk hadn't purchased X, would Trump have even been elected? And just ask yourself, when you're watching content online, what happens to your emotions? Be honest with yourself. Do you get angry?
They really didn't know. And one of the places you saw it for the first time, this was, 8 years ago when I published Homo Deus, this was happening.
Because now that they know, and keep in mind, this is not him. He doesn't control the social media companies. He's a futurist. He's bringing you a message. He's a messenger. You can shoot him if you want. I mean, metaphorically speaking, don't ever shoot a human being. But, you would shoot the messenger? Maybe there's a reason they don't want us listening to this guy.
I didn't pay attention to it either. In Myanmar, Burma, the country formerly known as Burma, Facebook was basically the internet, and certainly the biggest social media platform. And in the 2010s, the algorithms of Facebook in Myanmar, they deliberately spread terrible conspiracy theories and fake news about the Rohingya minority in Myanmar, which led to an ethnic cleansing. Of course, it was not the only reason. There was deep-seated hatred towards Rohingya much before. But this kind of propaganda campaign online, on Facebook, contributed to an ethnic cleansing campaign between 2016 and 2017, 2018, in which thousands of Rohingya were killed, tens of thousands were raped, and hundreds of thousands were expelled. You now have close to 1 million Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh and elsewhere. And this was fueled to a large extent by these conspiracy theories and fake news on Facebook. And at the time, the executive of Facebook had they didn't know even the Rohingya existed. It's not like it was a conspiracy of Facebook against them. For the whole of Myanmar, a country where Facebook had millions and millions of users, by 2018, this is after they got reports of the ethnic cleansing campaign, they had just a handful of humans trying to kind of regulate the actions of millions of users and the algorithms. And they didn't even speak Burmese. Like when the algorithm chose, okay, I'll show people this hate-filled conspiracy theory video in Burmese, nobody in Facebook headquarters spoke Burmese. They had no idea what the algorithm was promoting. The key thing is not to absolve the humans from responsibility. It's to understand that even very primitive AIs, and we are talking about, like 8 years ago, not things like ChatGPT. Still, the decisions made by these algorithms to promote certain content had far-reaching and terrible consequences. In Myanmar, they were not just producing conspiracy theories. They were producing, there are millions of users producing, cooking lessons and biology lessons and sermons on compassion from Buddhist monks and conspiracy theories. And the algorithms made the decision to promote the conspiracy theories. And this is just kind of a warning of look what happens with even very primitive AIs. And the AIs of today, which are far more sophisticated than in 2016, they too are still just the very early stages of the AI evolutionary process. And we can think about it like the evolution of animals. Until you get to humans, you have 4 billion years of evolution. You start with microorganisms like amoebas, and it took billions of years of evolution to get to dinosaurs and mammals and humans. Now, AIs are at present at the beginning of a parallel process. The ChatGPT and so forth, they are the amoebas of the AI world. But AI evolution is not organic. It's inorganic, it's digital, and it's millions of times faster. So whereas it took billions of years to get from amoebas to dinosaurs, it might take just 10 or 20 years to get from the AI amoebas of today to AI T-Rex in 2040 or 2050.
Maybe even less.
Maybe even less.
We're talking about, I don't think our brains are organized properly to really comprehend the accelerated speed at which this is self-learning and iterating and improving upon itself. Like this, it's a compounding thing that is astronomical. Meanwhile, trillions of dollars are being spent to build these server farms with these NVIDIA chips, and there's so much power required to keep these things going. They're talking about nuclear power. I mean, this is a whole new world. And yet, in talking about it, it still feels somewhat like an academic exercise. Because for myself or somebody who might be watching or listening, their experience with AI comes in the form of ChatGPT or some of these helpful tools. Like, I like my algorithm. It shows me the kind of products that I want to buy without having to search for it. And a simple example would be preparing for this podcast. Like, I listen to your book on audiobook, and I'm doing what I usually do, pulling up a bunch of tabs and, like, just collating a bunch of information on you and the book and the message that you're putting out. But I did something I had never done before, which is I got a PDF of Nexus and I uploaded it to a tool called Notebook LM. And that tool then synopsized the entire book and created a chatbot where I could ask it questions about your book and ask it to elaborate on certain concepts.
Yeah, so it's being used like all over the place. I use some AI here to do a lot of different work, streamline tasks. Everybody's using it. And if you don't, you get left behind. Where does it stop? It also is, I think, creating some homogeneity between, among content. It's synthesizing things down into a unimessage in many respects, potentially. Where are the rules? Especially when it's through private companies, not regulated through just a constitution and limits imposed upon it the way that government is, and yet government is using it and controlling it as an extension of government. Scary and accelerating. This was a year ago, that interview. I'm going to put the link in the chat on the Rumble channel to that video if you want to watch the whole thing. It's a lengthy interview. Well worth the time. This was on the channel Rich Roll, where Harari was interviewed. So I say go listen to everybody that has something of value to add to the conversation. Don't just dismiss people because one side says, don't listen to them. Then you go listen. That's what I do. To find out why they don't want you listening to them. Sometimes it's valid, sometimes it's not. In this case, he's got something of value to say. He's not the guy controlling the AI. That would be Sam Altman, Peter Thiel, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Donald Trump.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Just a story of note. I think this is important. Also playing a little catch up because I wasn't here yesterday, but it hasn't been widely reported. Back to the Guardian. Headline. Reported elsewhere, too. Revealed Pentagon orders states' National Guards to form quick reaction forces for crowd control. Pentagon memo details plan to train over 20,000 National Guard members across U.S. to carry out Trump's order on subduing civil unrest. A top U.S. military official has ordered the National Guards of all 50 U.S. states, the District of Columbia, and U.S. territories to form quick reaction forces trained in riot control, including use of batons, body shields, tasers, and pepper spray, according to an internal Pentagon directive reviewed by The Guardian. The memo was signed on 8th of October by Major General Ronald Burkett, the director of operations for the Pentagon's National Guard Bureau, sets thresholds for the size of the quick reaction force to be trained in each state, with most states requiring to train 500 National Guard members for a total of 23,500 troops nationwide. As authority, Burkett cited Donald Trump's August executive order that deployed the National Guard to fight crime in Washington, D.C. The same order required the Secretary of Defense, or War, to create a standing National Guard quick reaction force available for rapid nationwide deployment in quelling civil disturbances. What does he know that we don't? What are they preparing for exactly? I think we know. Imagine if they were doing that in Canada. Do I hear any of the pro-Trump Canadiana Canuckistanian live streamers out there, the 51st pro 51st staters, are any of them concerned about this the way they would be if this was happening in Canada, the way that they were when Justin Trudeau invoked the Emergencies Act, which is sort of the same thing as the Insurrection Act, the Canadian equivalent of that in Canada? Why are they mum on this? And Trump has openly spoken about maybe using the Insurrection Act. Scary stuff, man. This also from a guy, just pivoting back to the tariffs momentarily. I just need to just make a note that, Trump and his use of tariffs may not be constitutional. He's about to face a big court challenge on that front. If the Supreme Court of the U.S. says that what he's doing is unconstitutional, his whole plan goes right out the window. Then he has a much bigger problem. But more than that, what he's doing with the tariffs, it's clearly a violation of existing trade deals. It's a violation that can be challenged and is in some cases actually being challenged in international courts. It's a violation of the current USMCA deal. And again, a lot of, not a lot of attention being paid to this. Back in May, there was a court ruling that called tariffs illegal in the U.S., and the appeals drag on in that regard. The Supreme Court hears arguments, I think it's November 5th, and Canada's strategy, and there is a strategy. I keep hearing, the anti-liberal guys, that's fine. You can, that's all cool, whatever. But keep in mind that, some of these people have a political agenda saying the government has no strategy. Yeah, there is. Carney sees a fundamentally different relationship now between the United States and Canada. Canada aims to double non-U.S. exports in a decade. He's toured Asia last week, just as Trump did. He's eyeing deals in Japan, South Korea, India. Exports to Asia topped U.S. crude shipments in April. A buy Canadian push has cut internal barriers by 10%. So, things are being done here on the Canadian front. And these trade deals on the international scale, they can be challenged. They are being challenged. But the problem is, while Canada or any of these other countries facing these tariffs could win, say, if they went to the, if they used, if they initiated the dispute settlement mechanisms embedded within these trade agreements like USMCA or the GATT or any of these others, largely these countries would win. But the problem is the United States is so powerful, not just economically, but militarily. And because there is this existential threat being presented to Canada with regard to our sovereignty, using trade as a weapon, I think the government is just petrified, rightly so, to become too aggressive in challenging these things or even trying to go through the dispute settlement mechanism, saying that these tariffs are a violation of these trade agreements in a very vocal or robust public way. Because in the end, the United States would probably just ignore it, and they have in the past. And more than that, they might retaliate because Donald Trump would get his nose all out of joint again and use it as a pretext, an additional pretext above and beyond the fentanyl argument and the fentanyl manufactured excuse to potentially invade us. The way that he's using it as a pretext, one of the pretexts, cocaine and fentanyl, which is also an amplified and exaggerated narrative about Venezuela. And I think they blew up another boat just within the last 24 hours, killing more people. So got to be really careful, man. This is what's going on. And I heard somebody say just yesterday in a video link that was sent to me from somebody who's been critical of me, and I'll address the thing that I was going to address at the beginning of the program now. This person saying that Canada is a pawn of the United States, sort of, but not really quite true. This person used that phrase, caught my attention. He's not really wrong, but he's not really right. Canada is a smaller partner. We live next door to Godzilla. We have to be very careful how we conduct our affairs, what we say, because, of course, you don't really want to get Godzilla too upset because he might breathe fire on you and then your barbecue. So, but what does Canada do to stay in the good graces of the United States and maintain our sovereignty? I think sometimes deals are made in the shadows, behind closed doors, where Canada is used and abused. And in exchange, we get to keep our sovereignty. For instance, you look at, say, the MK Ultra program, which we've highlighted on this program, a very real thing, real court case has, been going through. And this was the MK Ultra mind control experiments conducted by the CIA. And a lot of that work was done in Montreal using subjects who were exposed to LSD, hallucinogenic drug, and shock therapy and repetitive messaging. They were essentially tortured to blank out their minds. And then they were trying to implant new memories and a new even personality, I think, in these people. And they destroyed people's minds. It was horrific what happened there. It's all documented. It's all come out. Canadian court case within the last year and a half or so. We had the lady who was on, who had a relative, I think it was her father, who went through it. And and came home basically and completely incapacitated. The court case was looking for compensation by holding the CIA and the US government responsible, accountable for the actions taken in Montreal, because it was the CIA that was conducting the experiments with the knowledge of the Canadian government, but not by the Canadian government so much. In the end, the court ruled that there was nothing that could be done and there would be no compensation. I'm simplifying this a little bit, but this is essentially what the ruling was no compensation because it was the US government that did it, and they're immune from prosecution because it's a foreign government on Canadian soil. That's why they did it here, folks. They did it in Canada so that they couldn't be held accountable. If they did that to their own people in their own country, they would be facing consequences today, or maybe even earlier. But because it was done in Canada, they get away with it. This is, I think, what's done sometimes to Canada and other countries too, where experiments are done that are experiments done outside the outside of U.S. law. Safety protocols abandoned, horrific things done where they can do an end run around regulations so that U.S. citizens are not even aware that it's going on, and they do it in other countries. Canada, not so much a pawn, but a victim. And our politicians, sometimes corrupt, probably, accepting things in order to just look the other way, or threats saying, and this is also why the Avro Arrow, many people believe, and there is some evidence to back this up, that the Avro Arrow fighter jet interceptor was not ultimately put into production here because the United States didn't want that to happen. They saw that as a potential threat to the military-industrial complex in the U.S. and national security to the U.S. Couldn't have it happening here. That makes it even more interesting to me what's going to happen with potential Gripen fighter jet assembly maybe coming to Canada, both for Ukraine and maybe domestically for Canada as well, instead of proceeding with the F-35 contract with the U.S. And then I look out also, I think there's a lot of this stuff that goes on up here where the U.S. controls things. We don't hear about it. And it happens up here on Canadian soil because they're then immune. That's also what makes Canada more valuable to the United States, not even Donald Trump as a separate nation than having us as a 51st state. And then I look at what's going on at that farm out in BC. And the things they don't want to talk about, the things they've stopped talking about, the things, the antigens being injected into the birds, they don't talk about that. The government doesn't talk about it. The farm has stopped talking about it. They just want to save the birds. It's a weird situation. Clearly government money involved in the research that was done out there into COVID during the pandemic. And I have my own thoughts on what really has been going on out there after digging so deeply into it, but they're not being honest with people. I know that. And this person who's been online talking about that and also saying that Canada is a pawn, not quite right, more a victim than a pawn, but also talking about me, isn't wrong about this stuff out of the farm, and he's raising concerns too. I don't want to mark him out or call him out or cause a fight. He's mentioned me a few times in the last few nights because he used to contact me and has been asking questions about this program and me, wondering what happened to a bunch of videos related to another event, which was sort of a prelude to of things to come out at the ostrich farm, what was going on at the Camp Hope Winnipeg fiasco. I hesitate to call it a rally or whatever the hell that thing was. They were trying to put together another sort of a convoy thing. It was originally supposed to go to Ottawa. Then they ended up going out to this place in Winnipeg, Camp Hope. And it turned into a circus. And I became aware of some of the negative things that people wanted to do out there, even violent things at the time. And everything I said, I still stand behind. I stand by everything that I said at the time because I was able to back it up with the very words of the people who were of concern. And this person is saying, well, a lot of what he said was true, but a lot of it was BS. Everything I said, I backed up because I was pretty careful about it. But there was one person in particular he kept trying to defend. And we had a disagreement about that and a few other things too. And he might want to really think back and maybe seek a little more personal clarity on the way he recollects things. He's asking what happened to these videos. And a lot of the videos are not publicly available from that 3-week period right now. And if he thinks about it, I explained to him already why. He's maybe just didn't understand at the time. I think there was a lot of things that I was expressing and showing people at the time where I was warning people about some of the dangers that were present out there and what they were really up to, which was recruitment and let's just face it, some of these people want a war. They want to fight. And I was calling it out back then. And I was attacked. I'm still attacked. People don't want me saying that. It's true. And this person online, they've come around and it's taken, what is it, about a year and a half? About 2 years. 2 years. Because this thing of the ostrich farm, this is just this year's version of that. And because they just do one like every summer now. Then was the place outside Ottawa the year after the Camp Hope thing, and now they're at the ostrich. It's just one. Where are we going this summer to camp out? It was the ostrich farm this year. But thing is, he's wondering what happened to those videos. I have an explanation. It's actually not even complicated. It's a very simple explanation. There's I'm not hiding anything per se. Everything I said was out there in wide open for a while. And there's a reason, there's a very simple reason that stuff is not found. I would be happy to explain it. But I'm not going to do it here tonight. I'm going to let it simmer a little bit. I'm sure some of you know who I'm talking about. And if you're aware, you can let them know that I'm happy to talk to them about it. Maybe right here on this program so that everybody knows why those videos aren't seen. And so that everybody knows really more about what happened out at that thing at Camp Hope. Oh, I got stuff I can tell you. And what happened between him and me and why he's still ripping me. Or I guess, like I got nothing against him. Happy to share the truth. Right here, or even better, here and on his channel. Because that's the thing, a lot of these people want access to you. That was also the case during that thing in Winnipeg. Everybody there wanted access to the channel so that they could have access to our audience. I'll explain it. You tell him. His name's Joe. He doesn't know who to trust. I understand that. I get it. Can I trust you, Joe? Right here. I'm easy to find. I think he's got my number. Hasn't changed. I'll be right back to close things off. Stay with me.
Maverick News. Expose lies and tell truth. The world is watching.
Another thought, just as we close things off tonight, I suggested to make a deal with Donald Trump. Should take him a nickel-plated, or maybe a solid nickel, that'd be something, baseball trophy thingy as a consolation prize if the Blue Jays win the World Series. And I know Canadians are rooting for the Jays. So much so that I think even true conservatives, not fake socialists, or fake conservatives like Donald Trump, I think even conservatives, even on the U.S. side, maybe rooting for the Jays. Here's Reagan. Reagan was a Jays fan. Oh, is that real or is it AI? Reminds me of the old Memorex ad in the magazines. Is it real or is it Memorex, the cassette tape company? The sound was so clear through all that tape hiss of the day that people couldn't tell if it was real or Memorex. I think that might have just a little bit of AI contributed to it, or at least Photoshop. That's funny. Reagan as a Blue Jays fan. Yeah, that'll piss off Donald. Which brings me to my final thought this evening, and I don't mean this in a really negative way, but I'm not sure how else to convey this in the most positive way possible. I've been getting messages from one of my separatist friends who, freaks out every time I even just, the word Alberta passes my lips. He has a mental breakdown, and then I get a flood of text messages saying that I'm a clown and Alberta's already gone and that Canada is nothing but a rotting corpse and that Alberta is divorcing us, that the divorce is underway, and that the stinky, rotting corpse of Canada is going to be left behind. Then, overnight, because the Jays won again, so now we're going into, what is it, Game 5, right? So the Jays ahead one. They need one more win to win the World Series. And he texts me overnight, and he says, "We won." I was like, I texted back. I said, "No, we won. Alberta doesn't have a Major League Baseball team. These guys, I'm sorry, no. If you want to stay in Canada, you can celebrate the Jays because the Jays right now are playing for all of Canada. That's a big part of what this whole thing is about. It's about national pride." He texts me, he says, "We won." Well, I'm glad you're back on Team Canada. I hope you are. We'd love to have you. Alberta, separatists, I don't think they've got half the province. Who knows how much support they have. But no, I'm sorry. No, you don't call Canada a rotting, stinking corpse. I'll read you the texts. They're disgusting. Like, he's so emotional. It's funny, but gross at the same time. Let me just see. I won't tell you who it is. He knows. That would I probably have a mental breakdown over this. I hope not. He says, no more free oil, money, Quebec, free Alberta, separate, ASAP, free Alberta, divorce in process. He says, Alberta is cutting itself off a dead, rotting corpse. You are a clown show. You never give Western view. Bias, 40 years. Clown show. You are a clown show. And then the Jays win last night, and he texts me, we won 6-1 Blue Jays. I was like, no, you can't do that. That's not fair. No. It's like you don't get to separate and then keep the Jays. No, go get your own damn team. If you want to be your own country, you got to get your own Major League Baseball team. You don't get to keep ours. None of them. Go get your own. Just saying. Am I wrong? No, you want to come back to this side? Love to have you. And then you can celebrate with us. But until then, nope. No. See, because you have to appreciate what you have, because you hopefully appreciate it before you lose it. You're going to lose the Jays. You already have, as far as I'm concerned. Just saying. That's the message tonight from me to all the Trump traitors out there. I'll see everybody back here tomorrow night, 7 p.m. on the flip side.
Didn't pick this fight, but here it came. Now I wanna play in a traitor's game. They sell us out for a tax cut deal. Shake his hand while they rob and steal. They call us blind, they call us weak, but they're the ones on their knees to the thief. Wave our flag while they burn it down, marching to the sound of a tyrant's crown. Patriots, they're bought and sold. Trade our land for American gold. Singing his tune, dancing his way, but they'll cry for Canada when it's too late. Yeah. Trump traitors, selling us out, burning our home for a tax break now. They stand with the wolves, spit on the brave, but they'll beg for Canada when it's in its grave. They talk real tough, but they bow real low, licking his boots while they put on a show. They chant his name, raise their fists up high, while the real ones fight to keep us alive. They don't fight fair, they twist the truth, say they're the future, but they kill the roots. They laugh now, but watch them run when the north wind howls and justice comes. Traitors, selling us out, burning our home for a tax break now. They stand with the wolves, spit on the brave, but they'll beg for Canada when it's in its grave. One day soon the tide will turn, and traitors pay when the fires burn. No statues raised, no banners flown, just names in dust where the traitors roam. Selling us out, burning our home for a tax break now. They stand with the wolves, spit on the brave, but they'll beg for Canada when it's in its grave. Trump traitors, Trump traitors.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.